Tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm not mistaken, you was a millionaire, right? Before you signed to a major? What age was it when you made your first million?
Right, 16, 17 years old.
Yeah, I know it had to be hard to sign you because you was already looking at millions before you signed to a major. So, yeah, that's crazy, man. So that line that you said on The Way We Ball, when you said that Job couldn't afford you, that was real then.
You just heard it yourself. Millionaire before a major deal at 16 years old and turning down offers from Jive because they simply couldn't afford them. Most rappers dream about being discovered, about getting that one big break. But for Lil Flip, the break never came from a label. It came from his own grind. This wasn't an industry fairy tale. This was a teenager out of Cloverland, Houston, flipping mixtapes like they were bricks, pulling in more money in a weekend than some signed artist made in a month. He was moving product out of mom and pop stores like Music Mania in Austin, where one drop off could mean $7,000 to $8,000 in his pocket, then hitting the next store down the street to double it up. By the end of the day, Flip wasn't just doing shows. He was collecting 5 figures before stepping on stage. And that's what made the majors nervous. Labels weren't used to negotiating with kids who already had money, leverage, and a loyal fan base. Flip wasn't begging for a contract. He was deciding whether or not to give labels a chance. That flipped the entire industry dynamic upside down. But the truth behind Flip's millionaire status goes deeper than dollar signs. It wasn't just about making money. It was about rewriting the rules of hip-hop itself. And not everyone was happy about it. Because when you build an empire outside the system, you don't just make noise, you make enemies.
Correct.
How did that come about?
Well, I sold a lot of mixtapes. I also was in the streets before that, you know what I mean? So passing out my own CDs and flyers, putting my own posters up, hitting them different towns, man. I pride myself on going to the towns that everybody else skipped. Man, I'm going to big towns, small towns, and they appreciate you more. They appreciate the music more. And they'll be like, man, what you doing out here? Nobody ever come out here. That's why I'm here, because nobody else come here. And I ain't trying to do what nobody else did.
Houston wasn't New York or Los Angeles. There was no Def Jam office down the street, no A&R executives hanging around the clubs. If you wanted to make a name, you had to do it by hand, literally. For Lil Flip, that meant swallowing his pride, hitting towns other rappers thought were worthless, and putting posters on walls himself.
So when everybody was telling me I was dumb, man, you giving away all your mixtapes and you doing double albums, there's too many songs. It worked for me. It's like being in a mall. You walking in the mall and somebody come up to you with the sample, like, hey, would you like to try this? And then you tried it. And you like it? Oh yeah, I like it. Well, if you want more, we're right here at this building.
That was Flip's mentality. Give them a taste, then show them where to buy more. He wasn't chasing radio spins. He was conditioning listeners one city at a time. The people he reached didn't feel like fans. To Flip, they were family. And once family got hooked, they stayed loyal for life.
8 months later, I come back to New York to do a show. I got a whole new mixtape now. Now, they know the words to the other mixtape, but now here goes something new. So now I conditioned them to get free music, but they got the quality. So when I come back for the 4th time, they proud to pay. Like Nipsey said, R.I.P. Nip.
By the time Flip circled back to a city, people weren't just happy to see him, they were proud to pay. This was a system decades ahead of its time. Years later, Nipsey Hussle would call it proud to pay, but Flip had already perfected it in the 90s. He made listeners feel invested in his success, not just entertained by it. That's what set him apart. While other rappers were chasing radio charts in New York or LA, Flip was building empires in places without BDS tracking. Markets no one cared about became his strongholds. And when he came back with new music, the same fans lined up again, hungry for the next tape. But here's the catch. This kind of grind didn't just build loyalty, it built numbers. And the numbers didn't lie. By the time Flip turned 17, he wasn't just another kid hustling mixtapes. He was sitting on serious money. And that's when things changed. Because once word spread that a teenager was making 5 figures off CDs, the majors weren't the only ones paying attention.
What age was it when you made your first million?
Right, 16, 17 years old.
16 years old. Most kids are saving for their first car or maybe prom night. Flip was counting stacks that some adults never touched in their lives.
I was out there really in the streets though, like literally, like really doing what I do, bro, like hand in hand. Like I gave away a lot of stuff and then I conditioned people. It was times I would go pick up more money for mixtapes than I would pick up for a show. Man, I pull up there, drop off a box of CDs, get about $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. Well, you know what? I done picked up $12,000, $13,000. Then go pick up the show money, go to the next town and repeat.
This was more than pocket change. In one day, Flip could clear 5 figures before even hitting the stage. Music Mania in Austin became one of his main stops, a place where he dropped off boxes of CDs like shipments. Mom and pop shops across Texas trusted him because the product sold itself. He wasn't just moving mixtapes, he was running a business.
Yeah, I know it had to be hard to sign sign you because you was already looking at millions before you signed to a major. So yeah, that's crazy, man. So that line that you said on The Way We Ball, when you said that Job couldn't afford you, that was real then.
The line on The Way We Ball wasn't just a flex, it was the truth. By the time labels came around, Flip didn't need them. He was already sitting on money most A&R reps only dreamed about.
Yeah, a lot of people, they made offers, but the offers was redundant to me. We had an offer from Def Jam. None of the money was correct, and I didn't feel like the people that was offering money really believed in exactly what I had going on and appreciate it. So shout out to Steve Rifkin because he took the time to come out to Houston and kick it with me and see how we moving and how we booking all these shows and how we really communicating and sending stuff to the fans. And
that was the difference. Def Jam sent contracts. Steve Rifkin got on a plane. While other labels dangled advances, Flip was already making real cash on his own terms. And he wasn't about to give up ownership to someone who didn't respect the grind. The industry wasn't ready for that. Labels were used to desperate kids signing whatever was put in front of them. Flip wasn't desperate. He had leverage. He could say no and walk away with money still in his pocket. That kind of power flipped the balance. For once, the labels were the ones chasing the artist. But independence came with its own risks. Riding around Texas with boxes of CDs and thousands in cash wasn't just a business plan. It was a target. And while the majors tried to figure out how to sign him, the streets had already figured out how much he was worth.
And speaking of Screw, I heard that he made over 200K off a tape.
Yeah, definitely. For real. And when I saw it, I helped him count it. And when I saw it, I was like, I want to get this kind of money, like in one night. Like
when Flip saw DJ Screw count out 200,000 in one night, the game changed. This wasn't theory anymore. It was living proof that independence wasn't just survival. It was profit. Screw showed that you could make 6 figures from your living room. No major label required.
Yeah, I heard that he would have long lines outside his house to buy his tapes.
True. That's facts.
Those lines outside Screw's house weren't just fans, they were believers. People stood for hours in the Houston heat to get their hands on a tape. That loyalty was worth more than any Billboard chart position because it was direct to fan. No middleman, no radio spins, just raw demand.
How was he as a person?
I feel like the dopest part about Screw's personality, besides him hustling, like he wasn't no lazy person. He allowed us to utilize his platform and he was like, hey man, rep this, go eat. I started off a CEO and I'm still a CEO.
And it wasn't just about the money. Screw's legacy was generosity. He didn't hoard the platform. He didn't take percentages every time someone blew up. He told Flip and the Screwed Up clique, go eat. That spirit of independence and sharing built a culture where artists thrived without waiting for permission. Flip wasn't just a student in this classroom. He was an apprentice. He saw Screw stay up all night, pushing music, keeping the community fed, and keeping his circle strong. He saw that you could be humble, accessible, and still legendary. And most importantly, he saw that Screw's model was scalable. If Screw could make $200 in a night from tapes, what could Flip make from trunk sales, shows, and features? This was the Houston blueprint, not Def Jam, not Universal, the Screw House, the flea markets, the car shows, the trunk of a car packed with mixtapes. Flip took those lessons and elevated them into a system the labels couldn't compete with. But adopting Screw's model didn't just make Flip rich. It put him in direct competition with the machine. Labels didn't like artists proving they weren't necessary. And when the money got too big to ignore, the majors had to decide whether to crush Flip or copy him. And one label boss, Steve Rifkin, decided to get on a plane to Houston just to see how Flip was pulling it off.
Think about this. When you drop a double album, it counts twice. Instead of us getting like $8 a disc, we getting 12 and 13, you know, Tupac, Biggie Smalls, even A-Ball. I spray painted the vinyl gold, put it on my wall in my grandparents' house. And then when I finally got me a real gold plaque, I put the real gold plaque right next to the one I spray painted, you know what I mean?
Flip didn't just sell tapes, he hacked the system. The RIAA counted double albums as 2 sales each. Where most artists played by the rules, Flip bent them. Every fan buying a double disc meant 2 units towards certification, 2 golds, 2 platinums, and double the distributor payout. What looked like overstuffed projects was actually a money multiplier.
It was times where I would go to a town and I'm doing features and it's like 20 people at the studio lined up, you know what I mean? Like literally just ready. Boom, knock his verse out. Boom, who got the money? Boom, 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 boom. Line up. I do that. Then the next day, we in another town doing the same thing.
It wasn't just albums. Features became an assembly line. 20 verses in a day, cash on the spot. By the next morning, he was in another city doing it all over again. This wasn't an artist schedule, it was a CEO schedule.
So shout out to Steve Rifkin because he took the time to come out to Houston and kick it with me and see how we moving and how we booking all these shows and how we really communicating and sending stuff to the fans and like really being hands-on with the people.
That's what made Steve Rifkin different. While Def Jam sent offers from afar, Rifkin booked a flight to Houston. He wanted to see the operation himself, the mixtape runs, the packed shows, the lineups at car shows and flea markets. He saw a teenager moving like an independent mogul and realized this wasn't just hype, it was a machine.
And even when I got my major deal, I still operated like I was independent. I didn't sit back like, oh, I got a deal now, so I'm not gonna do nothing and let them do everything. Nah, I was still working, doing the same stuff I was doing before the deal.
And Flip didn't change when the deal finally came. Most artists sign and slow down, letting the label dictate their moves, not Flip. He doubled down, treating the label as just another partner while keeping his independent systems alive. He refused to let the machine control him. This was unheard of. Labels wanted dependency, artists who needed their cash and infrastructure. Flip didn't need either. He was making money before they ever showed up. He flipped the entire power dynamic. Instead of the artist depending on the label depended on him. But that independence came with tension. For every Steve Rifkin who respected the hustle, there were culture vultures circling, hoping to exploit it. Flip saw it firsthand. Suits who didn't care about the music, just the margins. People who would sign an artist, drain the catalog, and leave them broke. Houston's grind was built to resist that. The Screw House, King's Flea Market, the mom and pop shops. They were proof that an artist could win without selling his soul. Flip embodied that spirit. He wasn't going to hand over his empire to people who didn't believe in it. By the late 90s, the majors had a problem. They couldn't outwork him, and they couldn't outspend it. All they could do was try to buy in. And even then, Flip made sure the terms stayed in his favor. But while labels were learning to respect him, there was another force watching, the streets. And when you're a teenager sitting on 5 figures of cash, not every eye on you has good intentions.
How was he as a person?
I feel like the dopest part about Screw's personality, that he allowed us to utilize his platform. Me, I started off a CEO and I'm still a CEO.
Flip never forgot what he learned from DJ Screw. Ownership, generosity, and independence. He carried that into his own career, running his label like a business and refusing to sign away his freedom. Every move he made reminded the majors that Houston's artists weren't just rappers, they were CEOs.
So some people made their own record labels, some people branched out and signed, but he allowed us all to eat, man, and I respect it. He ain't asked for nothing, man, so I'll forever salute him, and no matter what, I'm always represent his name and his brand.
That spirit of everybody eats turned into a culture. Flip wasn't just an artist, he was part of a collective that showed independence could be profitable and ethical. And when the majors saw artists thriving outside their reach, they had no choice but to adapt. By the 2000s, Flip's blueprint was visible everywhere. Nipsey Hussle would later call it proud to pay. Chance the Rapper would prove you could win Grammys without a label. But long before streaming platforms and viral marketing, Flip was conditioning his fans to buy direct, to stay loyal, to treat music like a partnership.
It was times I would go pick up more money for mixtapes than I would pick up for a show. Drop off a box of CDs, get about $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. Before you know it, I done picked up $12,000, $13,000. Then go pick up the show money, go to the next town, and repeat.
Those numbers echoed. They forced labels to rethink contracts. If a 17-year-old from Cloverland could run circles around their infrastructure, then their leverage wasn't leverage at all. Flip didn't just get rich. He shifted the balance of power.
Yeah, I heard that he would have long lines outside his house to buy his tapes.
True, that's facts.
The image of Screw's house with lines around the block became a symbol. It proved fans wanted authenticity, not industry polish. Flip carried that same energy across the South, turning small towns into strongholds. He showed that forgotten markets could become empires if you treated people with respect. And that's the legacy. Independence wasn't a weakness, it was a weapon. By the time the majors adjusted, Flip had already made his mark. He wasn't just another rapper trying to make it. He was proof you could make it without them. And here's the crazy part. Flip's grind didn't just inspire fans and artists. It forced the industry itself to rewrite its rules. Labels that once laughed at mixtape hustlers were now scrambling to copy their model. Steve Rifkin's Loud Records, Atlantic. Even Def Jam eventually adopted pieces of the blueprint. More artist-friendly deals, regional scouting, and direct-to-fan marketing campaigns. Flip's legacy wasn't just personal success. It was a blueprint for a new generation. But Flip's most powerful lesson came from one night in Houston, standing next to DJ Screw, watching him count out $200,000 in cash. That single moment defined how Flip saw the game and how he planned to beat it forever.
And speaking of Screw, I heard that he made over 200K off of tapes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for real. And when I saw it, I helped him count it, you know? I helped him sell them, helped him count it. And when I saw it, I was like, promote to my fans. I want to get this kind of money, like in one night.
That was it, the spark. The moment Lil Flip knew that the industry's rules didn't matter because he just seen someone break them wide open. Watching Screw stack $200,000 in one night, Flip realized independence wasn't a gamble. It was a guarantee if you had the grind to back it up. He didn't need Def Jam. He didn't need Jive. He didn't need radio charts or gatekeepers telling him when he was ready. From the trunk to the tape shops, from small towns to packed shows, Flip had already built something labels couldn't buy: loyalty. That's why at just 16 he could call himself a millionaire. That's why at 17 he could laugh when majors tried to wave contracts in his face. And that's why the line, "Jive couldn't afford me," wasn't just a bar. It was a warning shot, because Flip's story wasn't just about making money. It was about proving that the hustle, the independence, and the community could beat the system. He didn't rewrite the rules. He ignored them completely, and in the process, he forced the majors to rewrite themselves. Today, you can trace the DNA of that grind in every independent artist with a fan base that buys direct, in every rapper who skips the middleman, and in every label exec who realizes that loyalty can't be bought with an advance. It has to be earned, hand to hand. Lil Flip didn't just win in Houston, he won for every artist who ever believed they could make it their own way. From the streets of Cloverland to stages across the country, he showed the world that independence wasn't weakness, it was power. And when the majors finally came calling, Flip had already made it clear he didn't need them, they needed him.